Hello and welcome. Today's episode for DevLog, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about abstraction. And I know not everyone that watches these is going to be sort of a programmer, so I'll try to identify what abstraction is in common terms, and I'll explain how I applied it in my dice rolling app, which if you checked it out last week, you'll see it's shifted and now you can do the font separate from the skin. I'm super excited about it. We got new fonts. We have one new font and we have about 8 new skins, which big thanks to Aqueous Erbium, huge contribution. And I'm so glad that I had something to actually put in there once I had figured out the process of abstraction for the program. But before I get into that, abstraction is the ability to take a concrete object and derive a definition from it, or to sort of augment one's own understanding of it. My favorite example is the case of apples. Being from Washington, apple a day keeps the doctor away. You know, just keep hucking apples at them, they won't come around any longer. And when you eat a Fuji apple or a Honeycrisp apple or a Gala apple, you notice that they all have a relative sweetness amongst each other, that when you look at a Red Delicious, you instinctively know it's going to be sweeter than when you look at a Granny Smith. And that is what abstraction is. It's where, through experience of the world, through eating all these different types of apples, we understand when we think of an apple that apples are sweet, apples are tart, apples are crisp, apples are sometimes really fucking soft and gross and disgusting, and who the hell put that in the bag at the grocery store, you know? Jesus, sorry, you get a lot of bad apples out there too. It just happens. And if you ask Goodwill Hunting, he'll ask, how do you like them apples? But what you gotta remember is that when we're abstracting what an apple is, that isn't to say that our sort of definite experience represents all apples in existence. There are apples beyond even just the scope of apples. And I mean, I don't know, I think the best example is a crab apple. Look at those fucking things. What are those? Disgusting. Yeah. You know, like, intelligent design, my ass. But like, when we look at a crab apple, we can go, oh, that's fucking gross. That's not an apple. And we know that it doesn't fit in with the category of other apples we've experienced, so we're able to categorize it as an outlier. And again, as this relates to abstraction, what we do when we're programming is we sort of create a general idea or scope of a problem, and we sort of say, okay, we want to put in this object or this input and get this output. An algorithm is the sort of set of steps it takes to get from point A to point B. Point B being the destination. So start to finish, algorithm is the between steps for the computer to take. And that can be adding digits, it can be combining sort of variables, comparating elements. There are all sorts of ways you can put two objects against one another and measure them, or change one input to get certain outputs. But again, first thing is first, you have to have clearly defined functions. Functions are the root of almost all programming, especially in our project here. We're building web apps. With this one in particular, I'm talking about the dice roller because that's where most of the work went this week. And so when we're abstracting what the dice roller is, well, the dice roller is a pseudo-random generator with an equalized output, and that output then is measured, and then upon that output, the outlier runaways are measured and then compared against one another. Anyway, about 16 more steps of the algorithm takes place. I ascend Mount Olympus, and I say to the gods, grant me your randomest number. And they say to me, Chloe, we give you the number 3. And I say, that's a very kind number of you. I fucking love the number 3. I'll take that. And And then they give me a bag of random numbers, and that's where they get distributed from. So don't worry about whether or not, oh, is this rigged dice? I don't know how to load dice. I barely know how to program. That's why I'm making YouTube videos instead of working on the roller. Anyway, the abstraction process, though, takes that dice roller and it separates the front image, the back image, and even the back panel that the images are set upon. And by doing that, we're able to change the color of the back element that the dice is set on. The dice face is then like sort of laid over that in one of 8 configurations, and then the font is placed on top of that based on the random dice roller of one of 20 configurations. And that's because we have up to a D20. And then when you select buttons on the side, you're changing property values of the React properties to then inject that element into the dice name down at the bottom right above the reroll button. And the reason I'm sort of explaining this is because the bigger thing we are sort of getting with this exercise is knowing when and where state updates and changes so that we can continuously have the correct output. I was a little ambitious, and I went over and told Aqueous Erbium, hey, check out the dice roller. And he went and started selecting between the skins. This was right as I had first done it. I was so excited. I don't know if you know this, but I'm all about dice, gambling, fortune. I love it. And he starts clicking it, and what do you know? On the D6, he rolls an 8. I've never seen it before in my life. And then he rolls a 10, and it's, you know, sometimes you just don't think, oh yeah, well, the dice roller isn't rolling the right dice because there's some mixed inputs somewhere. You just kind of say, okay, I got the skins changed, and then you missed something in another spot. And that attention to detail sort of is why I enjoy spending a longer time than what would typically be allocated in a school project. In a school project, I'd have it up, done, turned in, and then moved on to the next thing. But this can be something that I sort of build upon. And even in its current state, I don't think we're finished because we haven't even gotten to adding a second dice yet. And once we add the second dice, we're going to need to change the output so that it gives the output of the total dice, not just the output of a single dice. Because the output of a single dice is only presented on the dice face, but we could have the total separated. But that is what abstraction is. What output do we want to display for the end user? How do we want that output to be displayed? And how do we achieve that output with functions in the simplest form possible? And we're going to be going through and making sort of shifts and changes all along the way. The dice roller, I think, is coming to sort of like the cream of what it can be. Once multi-dice is added, I think the only thing left is to change between like which tabletop role-playing game you're playing so that you can then add like, say, blood dice for your D10s in Vampire the Masquerade, or you get your percentile dice for D&D. It's something we get to work on and move towards, and it's just really fun to play with because, again, it's so simple, but then little problems come up and you get to go in and check it out. And then, like now, I've changed the time delay to 5 milliseconds, whereas before it was 250. So when you go and click on it, it's going to seem a lot faster, and it's going to make me seem like a really cool programmer if you went and clicked on it before, and then you click on it now, and you're going to go, oh, geez, Chloe, wow-wee, that was fucking fantastic. I've never rolled the dice so good. And I just want to say, you did great too. Thank you so much for being here. I absolutely love getting to share this with you. There's been a lot going on, and maybe I'll share some of it in another video, but this episode specifically I wanted to talk about. We got our skins, we separated the fonts from the backs, and we are moving full steam ahead. It's awesome because even though the knowledge base hasn't grown, I haven't gotten much further in my JavaScript book, the problems we're solving are becoming more and more complex, but it's calling for almost as if we have to rethink the problem itself to find a simpler solution. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one, and have a great day. Love you. Bye.